With the rapid approach of The Secrets of Dumbledore, I thought it was time to make a video for all those excited about the film. I'm gonna do a sort of refresher as well as a breakdown and get you ready for everything you need to know about the third Fantastic Beasts movie. I broke this video up into 5 sections, the production going over directors, writers, and the drama behind all of that. Then the release date, which differs based on where you live, so that's important to know. Then I'll talk about the premise, or what the movie will be about and where it takes place. After that, I'll talk about the characters, both new and old. And finally, I'll dive deep into Harry Potter lore and go over all of the important things you need to know before you see this movie, which is probably the most important section. So without further ado, let's get into it. Production. The Secrets of Dumbledore is the third movie in what is supposed to be a 5-part Fantastic Beasts series. This film was directed by David Yates, who directed the first 2 Fantastic Beasts movies, as well as the final 4 Harry Potter movies, The Order of the Phoenix, The Half-Blood Prince, and parts 1 and 2 of the Deathly Hallows. Secrets of Dumbledore is also produced by David Heyman, who has produced every single Wizarding World movie, the 8 films, and now the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, wrote the first 2 screenplays mostly by herself, but this time she's getting help from screenwriter Steve Kloves, who wrote 7 out of 8 of the original Harry Potter films. The only one he did not write was The Order of the Phoenix. Having Kloves will hopefully help Rowling get her points across better, as many think she wrote the first 2 movies as more of a novel rather than a screenplay, which might be why it got some hate. Also, some behind the scenes drama. It appears as though Rowling wrote the script, which they announced was set to take place in Brazil, and many people reported this. However, it looks as though they scrapped that story, pushed back the release date, and rewrote big parts of the story, as it now does not take place in Brazil at all. Release date. There have been several delays in the making of this film. It was originally supposed to be released 2 years after the last movie, which would have been in 2020, but because of rewrites it got pushed back, and then with the pandemic it got pushed back even further. We do have a set release date now though, but it's different for each country. The Netherlands will get the first viewing on April 6th, then Australia, Germany, Denmark, New Zealand, Poland, and Portugal will get it on April 7th. The United Kingdom, China, Spain, Finland, Japan, and Sweden all get it on April 8th. Italy, Mexico, and Argentina will get it on April 14th, and America, Canada, Ireland, and India will get it on April 15th, which is what most of the trailers have been teasing. The premise. This movie is set in the 1930s, which means it's been at least 4 years since the first Fantastic Beasts film, which took place in 1926. Like the 2 films before it, it will explore more of the Wizarding World, as we see the magical communities of Bhutan, Germany, and China, plus more of the already established locations of America and the United Kingdom. The synopsis of the film says this: with Gellert Grindelwald's power rapidly growing, Albus Dumbledore entrusts Newt Scamander and his friends with a mission which will lead to a clash with Grindelwald's army. On top of that, Dumbledore must also decide how long he will stay on the sidelines for the approaching war. Characters and cast. We will see many familiar faces, including Newt Scamander, Jacob Kowalski, Queenie Goldstein, and though many thought she wasn't going to return, Tina Goldstein, who was finally seen in a trailer. On top of that, we have Credence, Theseus Scamander, Albus Dumbledore, and Gellert Grindelwald all returning as well. Although Grindelwald will be played by Mads Mikkelsen instead of Johnny Depp, who starred in the first 2 movies. Other familiar faces include Bunty, Newt's assistant from the last movie, as well as Yusuf Kama, but interestingly, one character that will not be returning is Nagini, as the actress Claudia Kim was pregnant during the time of filming. We also have some new characters as well, as we see a young Aberforth Dumbledore who is Albus's brother, who I'll talk more about later in the video. There's also Eulalie Hicks, who goes by Lolly for short, who we actually did see in the last film, but unless you read the script, you did not know who she was because they never said her name, but the script told us that she was a professor at Ilvermorny, the American Wizarding School. We're also going to see 3 other new characters, all of whom are part of an election for the supreme head of the International Confederation of Wizards, Vicencia Santos, Anton Vogel, and Liu Teo, all who will be running against Grindelwald as well. Important plot points to know. These movies are pretty complicated, and it's been almost 4 years since the last film came out, so here's a breakdown of all of the important plot points you need to know. The thing known as the Blood Pact is going to play a huge part in this movie. If you remember, this was what Dumbledore and Grindelwald made when they were kids, which was revealed in the last film, and what it essentially did was make it so the 2 of them could not fight each other, as it was a magically binding agreement that they could not break. The trailers do show them fighting though, so there's obviously something that we don't know yet. Going off of that, we also found out in the very first Harry Potter book that they eventually will fight each other in an epic duel where Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald, but that's not until 1945, so that's still a long way away from this movie that takes place in the 1930s. With the introduction of Aberforth Dumbledore, there's some important history to remember that we learned in the original Harry Potter novels. Albus and Grindelwald met, grew close, and made plans to rule over the Wizarding World. While doing this, Albus ignored his younger siblings Aberforth and Ariana, who he was supposed to be caring for, as their mother had just died and their father was in the wizard prison Azkaban for life. This eventually led to Aberforth picking a fight with Grindelwald. In that fight, Albus chose the side of his brother over Grindelwald, and the fight ultimately led to their younger sister Ariana getting hit by a curse that killed her. None of them knew whose spell actually hit her, and this led to a lot of tension between the two brothers. So much in fact that Aberforth punched Albus in the face at Ariana's funeral, which broke his nose. The trailer showed this tension between the two brothers very clearly, which all relates back to the history I just went over. Another important plot point is Leta Lestrange's death. In the last film, Leta of course lost her life when battling Grindelwald. Before she died, she said "I love you" when looking at the two brothers Newt and Theseus, both of whom she had dated in the past and present. Leta's death is important for multiple reasons. One, each brother will be affected by this in different ways, especially Theseus because he was engaged to her when she died. And the second reason is because she said she loved one or both of the brothers, then sacrificed herself to save them, much like Lily sacrificed herself for Harry, which gave him the love protection. So Leta's death might have put that same love protection on one or both of the brothers, which could play a part in this movie or the two that follow. Another important plot point to remember is that Queenie switched sides at the end of the last movie. She abandoned Newt, her sister Tina, and even Jacob, the man she loved and the man who begged her not to go. At the end of the film, we saw her in Grindelwald's castle Nurmengard, as Grindelwald was confiding in her about Credence. We of course saw Queenie alone with Grindelwald at one point before she switched sides, so he could have said something to her there or even put her under the Imperius curse. Going off of that, Credence also joined Grindelwald at the end of the last movie, and when he did, Grindelwald told him that he was a Dumbledore, evidenced by the phoenix that presented itself to Credence, a bird that will also play a large role in the story based on the trailers. This was the big cliffhanger at the end of the last movie, and it was a question asked many times throughout the crimes of Grindelwald. Who is Credence? Who are his parents? We might find that out in this film and finally discover his bloodline. So now you are all set to see the third Fantastic Beasts film, The Secrets of Dumbledore. I cannot wait until it comes out so that we can talk even more about this movie. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on Instagram to see more of my personal life, like my cute dog Loki, and some behind the scenes movie flame stuff. I also do similar content on TikTok and Twitter that I do here on this channel, so if you like what I do here, check them out. All the handles are right below me, and links are in the description. Over here are my wonderful patrons. If you want to be featured on the next video, plus get a few other perks, become a patron today. As always, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great movie flame videos on the way.